we've got going on here is we're actually on the 04 Grand Cherokee, and the keel ran into quite an issue here with his brake line. Yep. If you look in his hand here, you can see that's a whole hell of a lot of corrosion on that thing.
This is where when I was driving it, it started spewing out brake fluid. So,
and conditions of a low sinking pedal as well were present.
It's pretty rusty. Here's the rest of the line.
You just wanted to bring it around here too.
Here's the rest of the line. So obviously this end went to the ABS module, so it's a bit cleaner. It's in the engine bay. But as we get down and even further, it's gonna be, this is the part that was underneath the car. This is where the leak started, so as you can see, it's a bit darker than the rest of the car.
It literally just gets more and more corrosion and rust, and yeah,
it's just falling apart. I shouldn't be able to do that, but I mean, 20 years on the road, it's gonna do it. So, yeah.
All right, so we're back under here, under the 04 Grand Cherokee, and we actually got the new junction block in there, as you can see, all nice and shiny. And there's a little bit of some goofiness in the bends in the copper line, but as long as it doesn't leak and it's not excessively long, we should be good. So next steps of action for this Jeep from here is to go ahead and top it off with fluid. Take the wheels off, we'll crack the bleeder screws open, and we'll go furthest to closest from the master cylinder. Alright, so last time we were working on the Jeep here, you saw that we got the new brake line going up, coming from the ABS to the rear distribution block there. So the issue that we ran into, though, when we were trying to bleed the brakes is, of course, dealing with a vehicle that's lived most of its life in the rust belt. The bleeder screw stripped off. So what we ended up having to do here is we ended up having to snag up a new caliper because we couldn't get that thing out. This is a little bit easier. There's a couple different ways that you could try and actually possibly get that bleeder screw out. And one of those being which you could actually probably somehow finagle 2 picks up in there and see if you can spin the threads. If not, like in our case, probably going to be better off just replacing the caliper, especially with how much rust is underneath this Jeep right now.
So right here we did the brake system on the Jeep, so we replaced the rear crossover hose that was on the rear axle, the full copper line from the ABS module, and the engine all the way back here, and we replaced the passenger rear caliper because the bleeder screw broke off, and now we replaced everything. The pedals feel stiff, there's no leaks. The caliper bolts, if anyone's wondering, should be torqued to 3 foot-pounds, so not a lot, but we did all that, and now it's finally ready to go back on the road. So right here we're on the 2011 Buick Lucerne. It's a crank no start, and here's some data PIDs from what we're seeing right now. So as you can see, we're taking a look at the ECT right now. It's showing negative, the coolant is negative 40, intake air is negative 40. So I mean, that's getting full 5-volt reference, we believe. Ambient air is 32 degrees. Engine load is, hold on. Engine load is, give me 1 second. Engine load is 95%. It all kind of, it seems a bit off, and we're gonna diagnose a little bit more to see what the problem is.
So under the hood here, we located the PCM as well as the ECT sensor. We probably won't get through this content in the lab video, but what we're planning on doing from this point is to go ahead and get a pinout of the PCM, determine which pin number is for the ECT, whether that be the 5-volt reference or the actual reference ground. And we'll take a look, and hopefully that would be our issue in diagnosing this no crank, crank but no start issue. Alright, so my original assumption of we weren't going to find this problem has been just null and voided here. I'm going to show you here what we determined. So, last time we left you guys, we were looking at the ECM pinout on this vehicle. And we determined that we did have power coming out of our PCM wire, but we still weren't getting any power on the actual ECT sensor. So, on further inspection, and after going through a couple of bang your head against the toolbox moments, we realized that this connector right here was the actual wire in which our ECT was running into. So, plugging that back in, we started up the vehicle. Granted, the vehicle didn't really run too long because we still have the MAF disconnected. We did find that that was our crank but no start issue. So, problem solved. On to the next.